Over the past 5 years, I've reached the highest level of Netherite pot PvP, and today, I'm going to explain the mechanics, strategies, and advanced techniques that top players use in every fight. Most guys only teach the basics. This one teaches you how to actually play like a high-tiered player. So if you want to improve faster than ever before, you're in the right place. And since this video took years of experience to make, subscribing would seriously help out a lot. And let's get started. The first thing I'm going to explain is how you should actually play this game mode on a high level. Most people just try to win trades and win Jura with the melee and gap timings, but don't actually understand what they are doing. Listen carefully, because this info is what separates tier 2s to high tier 1s. When playing Netherite pot, there is one goal, which is to get hit less by your opponent when you are gapping compared to how much you hit them when they are gapping. So now you have to understand how to do this, and this is where your creativity can go anywhere. Your goal is now to hit them more when they are gapping and not let them hit you when you are gapping. So what do you think a good way to do this is? 1. Raw dog every exchange and don't heal, and when they gap, just run away. 2. Gap first, so when they gap, you can chase them down. 3. Trigger bot so they have no chance to win. 4. Go into trades with the mindset that you might be down in durability, but as long as they waste resources, it's okay for the long term. If you said number 3, then you are correct. Well, if you want to get banned. The answer was number 4. You see what I'm teaching you right now is my exact playstyle 1 for 1. If you've been in my streams, I've always said how I don't care if I lose in durability at the start, as long as I save my resources and the durability difference is not too big. You see, the goal is to drain all of your opponent's resources whilst keeping yours, even if it means you are down a bit of durability. Now you must be thinking, how do I do this? To do this, you must gap first in every trade, but don't gap at high HP. Gap at low HP like 5 hearts. Because let's say you are mid-trade and you're down 1 heart, like you're on 6 hearts and your opponent's on 7. Once they see you haven't gapped already, they will expect you to use your healing pots or pop a totem. But instead, you just gap at a really low HP and then fight back. And because they haven't gapped, they were expecting you to heal with your totem, so now they are forced to use their healing pots. But now, you must know the second they turn to use their healing pots, you gap instantly. You can try and even predict when they do it. And just like that, you are up 2 healing pots, but you might be down 2 or 3 crits from the exchange. It is like a long-term investment. And with every tactic, there is a counter. Like, what if they just run away and gap when I don't stick to the aggro? You see, many people who have asked me for tips and asked me this exact same question. Let's use Swite as an example. He came across this issue, and this is what I told him. As you can see, I told Swite, when you are eating a gap, if you are for a second see they are turning to run when you're eating your gap, you can simply just cancel your gap and crit them in the back. This works simultaneously almost every single time, because no one's going to expect you to cancel your gap, as it's simply not humanly possible to predict when someone eats a gap or fully cancel it. Now you understand a core fundamental way of playing Netherite pot, and how to counter any issues you may come across with my playstyle. Now you must be thinking, after we mend and I am down 40 durability, how do I get it back? This is where your resources come into play, because by this point you should have only used a max of 4 healing pots and 0 totems, and your opponent should have used a lot more than you are. Now with everything you got, you fully switch your playstyle. Instead of gapping first and playing at low HP, you now go into every trade with the intention to force them to gap first. And now once they gap, you use all your resources like your potions, and you can even start to offhand your totem to build an additional aggro. However, this part must be done correct, or you will simply just be wasting all your resources trying to aggro. So you have to only use your totems and healing pots in a good situation. A good situation is where you have more saturation than your opponent, or when your opponent is in a bad situation, like low durability, like ghost gap, or if they majorly messed up in one of the trades. And with these aggros you get with the resources, you should gain all the durability back you was losing and extra. But now you must be thinking, how much resources do I use when I do some of these aggros in mid game? This is where you must not mess up understanding what I am about to say. It is 100% fine if you use every single totem and every single healing pot besides 2 or 3 when doing your aggro after the first mend, because the fight after the first mend in mid game is the game breaking decider who will stay up in durability, as after the final mend, if you were up in durability, it is super hard for your opponent to get it back, as most of the resources are already been drained throughout the first mend and second mend of the game, and you can simply force equal trades to keep your durability. You must remember, it is much easier to keep your durability lead on your opponent when you both don't have resources, compared to trying to keep your durability lead when you both have resources. That's why I've mastered my own playstyle. The playstyle is based off losing the first mend, but keeping all your resources for mid game, and once you're in mid game, use all your resources, use everything to get all the durability back on your opponent, plus extra, and then when it comes to the final mend, you're up in durability, you're both drained, and you just force equal trades. It's the simplest way to win in Nev pot through a playstyle mastered by me after 5 years of me playing this game mode. And you must be thinking, but it can't be this easy. You've only gave a few reasons why this wouldn't work and how to counter it. There must be more ways people can counter your playstyle. And that is very true, which is why I'm going to do a quick slideshow of all the possible outcomes that can go wrong in this playstyle and how to recounter them, how to never mess up this playstyle. So get ready to listen. 1. What if I can't get Jura on my opponent with my resources in mid game? Shortly, the only way you mess this up is if you didn't make them gap first, because even if you are losing the trade, you have to make them gap first, which is why for losing a trade, you have to use your totems or healing pots, and when they gap, you get a lot of hits on them, and you do not stop. And if they use their healing pots, then you walk into the body and steal their healing pots, and you continue to aggro no matter what. You do everything you have to keep it going. 2. When I am mid-trade and need to get Jura, what exactly do? I don't understand how to get Jura. To explain this simply, this is how the average trade should go. When they gap, crit them 3 times, and then jump and do a falling sprint hit, whilst also turning your body at the same time. So when you get them hits, whilst turning on your final hit on the falling sprint hit, you can turn and run away to eat your own gap. However, getting 3 crits whilst doing this and the sprint hit can be very hard, and can also only be done on low ping. So if you're on high ping, only do it with 2 crits. Another optional method is by instead of running away to gap, what you do is, when they eat a gap, you get 3 crits on them, but try and stay from 3 blocks away, so by the time they finish the gap and try to hit you back, you go out of the distance, so when they swing, you won't be in distance, and then you go back in the distance, and you get an additional crit, and then a KB hit, and then you eat a gap. This can be very risky, and you have to get your distancing perfect for this to work. However, when done correct, it's a crazy way to get a ton of Jura mid-trade. Also, this should have been in its own section, as it's a cool fundamental. However, I'm putting it in this section, because it also helps with this certain playstyle. However, you can do this no matter what. Without this playstyle, you can always do this type of way of getting Jura mid-trade. 3. But every time I go in a trade and try to get Jura, I keep getting strafed away from my opponent. How do I stop this? For this, I'm simply going to get my friend that's tier 1, Blades, to explain how to take 0 knockback.
If you're getting strafed and can't do anything about it, try no KB critting. To do that, you need to predict when the opponent will start strafing you, so you can hold W and pick crit them in the process. You usually don't need to jump reset unless they're distancing themselves like here.
4. But when I aggro to get Jura, they gap at a high HP, and then I can't aggro when they have so much HP and saturation. Well, this is where things get a little hard. If they gap at high HP, it means you can't use the playstyle and resources to get Jura. Well, this is why I explained how to get durability just by melee on point 2, and telling you what to do when they gap. As explained, if they gap at high HP, offhand a totem and keep aggroing, but don't pop your totem instantly, and use a few healing pots, and then pop your totem, and then continue the aggro, because then they'll be forced to stop gapping at high HP, or they'll lose too much durability. Which means they'll be losing way too much durability, so they will have to stop gapping at high HP. Now let's see everything we have gone over. The golden Netherite part, how to understand getting durability, how to use my playstyle to win a match, how to win trades with resources instead of gapping, how to counter issues you may come across, how to win trades to get durability, and win every trade on durability. I mentioned this earlier, but another key thing for Netherite part is knowing where you are and where to be. Like for example, a good position to gap and where you should gap without getting punished. Sometimes it's not about when to gap, it's about where to gap. For example, as you can see on screen, I'm showing examples of a good time to gap versus a bad time to gap, because of how much you can get punished for gapping in this certain situation and position. I mentioned earlier about cancelling your gap when people are running away from you. However, you can also do this in any situation, where you gap and then cancel it to catch someone off guard when they turn. But I don't mean when people say just to hold your gap and then let go at a random time to continue an aggro, as the only point of cancelling your gap is to get back a Jura off your opponent that they got off you when you were doing your gap. Now, I'm just going to talk over how to actually improve an Netherite part, and some tips that I've learned over time. There's not going to be much on screen showing you what to do here, as it's just general advice I'm giving as a high tier 1. Throughout this entire video, I've made it very clear that you want to hit them more when they gap compared to how much you get hit when you gap. And with this information, You use this info to create your own playstyle and execute it in your own way. This video is how I mastered this own playstyle using this logic over 4 years of playing Netherite bot to perfection. However, this isn't the only playstyle you can use. You can use my playstyle and mix it into whatever you want. Now, I'm going to go over a good practice routine for Netherite bot to actually improve fast. One of the best ways I found to improve my general gapping in melee and how to keep consistent when gapping is by playing Netherite bot but without any healing pots or totems. So what I'd do is I'd get someone around similar skill to me, and then we'd only play with a Netherite sword, 64 gaps, and then the armor. And then we just play a full game like that with XP too. And it teaches you how to really gap. It makes you think about every micro decision you make when gapping. I personally find this one of the best ways to actually improve an Netherite bot. The thing is, most players just spam duels with other people and hope they magically get better by getting better aim or whatever. But this is actually going to be a good way to improve your gap timing and how to actually improve fast. Another method I used to do, for example, when I was high tier 1 on the tier list, what I do was every time I do a test, I'd rewatch the recording and see every mistake I made. And lastly, yes, you all watching this video, you can all master this to get tier 1. So you might be thinking, if everyone watches this, won't the meta be broken and only come down to aim and melee? Well, remember when I said at the start of the video, this is where your creativity can go anywhere. The truth is, anyone can change up and mix his playstyle to be better in their own ways. And now everyone can use the newfound understanding of the game mode to create their own playstyle how they want. Because truly, this video was not just about teaching everyone a perfect playstyle and how to understand Netherite bot. This video shows you years of what Netherite bot meta has turned into. And it shows the real understanding of this game mode, and that's the best part of it all.